coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. It's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, only on Parapod TV. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but it's always, without a doubt and forever, your experience. And every week on the show, I bring to you people that I love that each have a unique story and are kind of just all doing their thing. My mama used to always say, just do your thing, doing their thing to make the world a better place. And my guest today is definitely no exception to that. He is a brilliantly talented writer, award-winning writer, producer, brand new talk host, brand new show is coming. Very excited about that. Trans Fairy Prince, and just a lovely soul. And it's his first time on this show. So done my other shows, but first time here. Please welcome the wonderful Kaedyn Nedopak. How are you, my friend? It's good to have you.
Hello. Thank you for having me again. We're just like switching off on each other's shows because we love each other that much, don't we?
We've known each other a really long time. Was it
a
maybe
long time? Sheena.
15 years ago I had you on my radio show? I mean,
absolutely.
You're considerably younger than me, and you were just a baby then.
I was a baby. Oh my gosh, 30?
Probably. Yeah. No, seriously, maybe.
Yeah.
Like right around there. Yeah. I'm so glad that we stayed friends, and I'm so excited to see you on your journey. And we all should be on a journey. Maybe not everybody is. I mean, we all are, whether we want or not, the journey called living every day until you don't. But I mean, everybody should really be on a journey to become their best you, I think. I think when you're not doing well, that's when you're not really on that journey. And we're always discovering every day who we are, right? Like you just keep unpeeling the layers and finding more stuff. It's like I used to love when I was a kid and I got the Easter basket, because you think you had all the candy and then you lifted up the little grass and there was, my mom would put more stuff underneath, and I'm like, there's more stuff. And I kind of feel like that's what our journey's like, right?
Yeah. I just saw a post too that somebody posted on, I think, a story on Instagram, and they said the people who are the same like years after you've met them and never change, those are the people that scare me. Like, how could you not change? How could you not change? Every day is different, especially now. The times are crazy, and it's really forcing everyone to wake up to explore who they really are and what their place is in the world, I think.
Although I think, yes, and I also think that at my core, I'm probably more like I was when I was 15 now.
Yeah.
Because I think I deprogrammed myself from a lot of the stuff that I bought into of what the world told me I was supposed to be.
I feel the same way as I'm transitioning. I feel like, wow, this is who I was when I was a kid. Probably before I went through puberty. I had this real confident concept of who I was, and then the world got to me and it all went to hell, right? That's what happens. We become so conditioned and told we need to be a certain thing, and we go down this weird path of trying to people please everyone else until we finally, I think, get old enough to say, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
I'm just going to be, it's funny because I'm in my 50s, and my friend who's also in her 50s, one of my best friends, we were having this lovely talk today because she just went out and bought this fancy car. And that's kind of one of the things that I spend a lot of time in my car. So I make sure I'm in a car that I love.
Yeah.
And she was talking about the guilt at the dealership, where she was like, should I? And then she's like, I thought to myself, you know what? We're in our 50s and we make good money and we don't have to do that anymore. And I'm like, no, I have that discussion with myself every day. Because I think that so much of our world is about, if you're a humble person and you're an empathic person, you allow the world to tell you why you should deprive yourself of everything you want. And not just material stuff, but emotional stuff and spiritual stuff and the things that you need.
Yeah.
But the world tells you, no, that's not a good idea. And when you're young, I think I did anyhow. I would like to have told you, and I thought I was a very free thinking, individualistic young person. But I believed in my heart that I had to make myself seem like a normal person so that I fit in more. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just it, right? Is that if you don't fit in, you're bullied. If you don't,
right.
Go with the status quo, people are always out there judging you. Me being transgender, like I get that every single day. People are just like, who do you think you are? Even trans people, who do you think you are?
Exactly.
And I'm just here living my life. I'm not harming anybody. I'm just trying to be myself. I'm like, why is that wrong? Why are we wrong to be authentic? Why are we wrong to be ourselves? That's the big question I have.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? I mean, I think especially how we perceive the trans community, because we don't quite have it yet. We're not there yet.
Oh, not even
and
close.
So I think there's this idea that if you're going to transition to male, as you did, that you've got to immediately get a flat top and buy a flannel shirt and grow a beard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not working out and you're not bulking up and you don't look like a lumberjack, then something's wrong with you and you must be wrong. I see us doing that as a woman. I see every day how women we pin each other into these boxes, right? We sit and talk about femininity and feminism and don't hold us back patriarchy. And then we turn around and hold our girlfriends back and, slut shame this one and tell this one she's not feminine enough.
Yeah. And somebody said the other day, somebody posted on my comment, they said, we're all free-spirited hippies until it comes to gender. And that's my experience when I came out. I was really shocked. I had been part of sisterhoods. I had been part of these, speaking of women in particular, these women's.
Yes.
And suddenly, they were like, oh, you're a witch. That's great. Oh, you're this. That's fine. Oh, you're trans. Not okay. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Y'all practice witchcraft over here. Like, how are you saying that this is not okay to be myself? But you don't realize how many people are so gendered. And I think a lot of the spiritual community kind of is, this is actually a topic I'd love to talk about, is how many spiritual people draw the line at transgender. They're like, oh no, everything is okay. I'm okay with queer people. But they're like, if it is not man and woman, in a lot of spiritual communities I've seen are also not queer. And I've had some beef with some people lately over that.
Yeah. It's something that I've encountered so I think my entire life, I'm a part of the intersex community, as you know. It's secret, but I didn't know till I was 33. I just knew something was different about me, but I didn't know what. And I always felt like I didn't fit in with women because I wasn't like woman enough to be a woman.
Yeah.
I wasn't like butch. I didn't want to be masculine. I just always felt like I failed as a girl. But then when I realized who I was, I think I became 10 times more feminine because I gave myself the permission to be able to be who I wanted to be. And it didn't have to be something I was being forced to be anymore. I got to be who I wanted to be. But that's always been a journey for me as a girl. I remember once I was working at a radio station and I was working with a partner who was a centerfold, and they had her pictures all over the lobby and none of me, even though we did a show together. And I thought it was because I was heavy. So I lost like 125 pounds and I went into the program director's office and I was all proud of myself because I thought I was finally skinny enough to make the wall. And he very kind of dismissively, without even looking up, said, here's the thing. You can lose all the weight in the world. You're never going to be the right kind of woman. And I thought, what in the world? But yet they would hire me to partner with these girls that had no experience because I was the brain and I was the wit. But yet they couldn't hang me in the wall because I was not the right kind of girl. And that was something that before I realized I was intersex kind of really hurt my soul. Yeah. Now it makes me laugh because now I think, oh, you think I'm not the right kind of girl. Wait till you find out what I really am. And then I kind of laugh on the inside.
I love this because I have the same experience. I've dated men, I'm bisexual, but I've dated men, I've dated women, and every partner I've ever had has said like like they want me and they were attracted to me because of my looks, and they thought I was going to be feminine, right? And even going out on auditions as an actor, they thought I was going to be this really feminine person, and then they met me, and I would constantly get people be like, oh, you're just so masculine, or like you're just not what I wanted. And even I've had men tell me that, you just kind of more like a bro friend than like a partner.
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on here. And obviously I came out and I was like, yeah, well, this all makes sense. And now my interactions with people, I can, like you said, I can really be myself. Like, even despite how I look, despite the fact that I left my hair long, there really isn't much feminine about me other than that. I really feel like I can step into my masculinity now, and it's so comfortable for me. But before, I was trying to be overly feminine because I just wasn't. People are like, you're just not feminine enough, and I was like, but I look pretty. I'm wearing these beautiful dresses, and it was just never enough.
And I think it's an energetic thing, right? Because I can walk in a room where every woman's in pants but me, and everybody's in chunky shoes, and I've got Italian loafers on, and everybody's got a sports watch, and I'm wearing a little gold watch, and people will still tell me that I'm masculine. And I think it is just an energy.
It is.
Because
I think
I've got makeup on, my hair is done, my hair is long. There is nothing about me that's not. I mean, I've gone places in the lesbian community where I've actually been bullied for being the girl in the skirt. Like, I had one time I was at a party and I went in the skirt with a polo shirt and a sweater over my shoulders because, I'm from Connecticut, Kaedyn. So that's what you get. And this woman kept following me around, like saying, are you sure you belong here? Are you sure you're one of the girls? Are you sure you're one of the girls? And I'm like, what is she talking about? It took me like 10 minutes to figure out what she was talking about. Like, I was there in a skirt. Therefore, I was like a straight infiltrator who had come to this party. Like, for what? For the hummus? Like, why was I there? Why was I infiltrating?
I came for the hummus. Yeah, no, and it's really interesting too, because I mean, speaking of lesbian spaces, speaking of women's spaces, this is actually a conversation I've had with a lot of trans guys, is that like where, everything is so gendered now. It's like women's spaces, but then those spaces are not welcome to trans women. Those spaces aren't welcome to intersex people. Those spaces are obviously not welcome to trans guys, but then we're talking about the same issues. These are not spaces of like, in most of the spaces that I'm in, we're talking about, oh, you grew up presenting as a woman and you've had to overcome all this adversity. Or, we're talking about body parts and menstruation. I was like, well, I belong in this conversation, but like, I don't identify as a woman, so therefore I'm not included in this conversation. So I feel like a lot of these spaces are so gendered and so binary and or stuck in like these certain stereotypes that everyone has to be, like including, this is what lesbians need to be like, that it excludes more people than it includes a lot of time. Yeah. And
and it still comes down to that us and them. And isn't that what we're fighting? When we claim we're fighting the straight white patriarchy, a Christian patriarchy, isn't that what we're trying to fight? Is the us and them. Either you're part of the elite or you don't belong. But then women will turn around as a marginalized people, right? And that's the biggest joke, to say women are a marginalized people is almost like an oxymoron, because we're the majority. There's no reason why we should be a minority, because we're the majority. But we allow ourselves to be so.
Yeah.
And then we turn around and treat other women like you don't belong.
Isn't that wild? And they internalize misogyny that women, like a lot of women will actually take that on themselves, and they will think like, oh, I have to act this way. And if anybody is not, and I think people don't realize how brainwashed they are. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
That's a group I grew up
right now.
I grew up in my 20s, 30s, 40s, producing and directing the vagina monologues every year. And I love Eve Ensler's rule that is basically, if you present as a woman or you have been a woman, then you can be in it, because it all works. If you have identified with the feminine spirit at some point, then because you can't tell trans men, you can't take away all the years that they identified as women and live that existence. And you can't tell trans women, right? You can't put the period back in the bottle. And you can't tell trans women, oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't count. You have to include everybody. And I get, it's very hard for me, especially within the queer community, And I kind of laugh because I too am a lifelong bisexual, and they never wanted us in the first place. So now that I make trouble, I think just makes them more angry.
I'm
But
like the B and the T, and people are like, no.
exactly. Yes. And I'm the I and the T. So basically I'm it. Tag, I'm it.
Exactly.
They would like me to leave.
They're like the rest of the alphabet.
But I kind of get in their faces with it. Like when I'd never date a trans woman. Well, what does that even mean? So let's come from a spiritual perspective, Kaedyn, because I know that you're also very spiritual.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, all of us are a mixture of divine masculine and divine feminine energy. And we all must know that when we pass into an energetic plane of existence, we don't have genitals there. So we don't have beards and we don't have abs.
Yeah.
And we don't have names. We're just energy. So this idea that we're excluding each other based on what is an earthbound concept, when we all have bits of everything in us, and it's just deciding where you fit on that spectrum and where you belong and how you want to identify. I think that's such a horrible thing. I think it's horrible to tell trans women they're not women, or tell trans men they're not men, or look at intersex people. I always tell this story, and now I will tell you. I had a very well-known lesbian performer on my show once, and I like her, and she likes me. Like, it's not like she doesn't like me, because she really does. And I don't even think she realized what she said, but she was on this tirade on the air about how she wouldn't date a trans woman. And then she said, and I don't even know that I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, Kaedyn. She said, and you know what? I don't know what kind of freak show you are. And I thought, did that just come out of your
wow
on my show? But I think there is such a fear, right? Yeah. That the trans women are going to come in and infiltrate our community.
Yeah.
And it's a girls club, it's like what was it, the Brady Bunch episode with like the He-Man club, and girls couldn't come in the clubhouse. But I think at the time that was like they were 8. Yeah. We're no longer 8.
We're not. And then speaking of this club experience, what I find is that, I mean, this is just my personal opinion and my feeling and vibe into it all, is that, women were repressed, I mean, that not a minority group, obviously, but there is a lot of misogyny.
Yes. A minority history.
Yeah, exactly. And then now we have, men that are finally speaking up. Men are also repressed. They repress each other, not being able to have emotions. So when trans people come out, part of the coming out process is really breaking free of all of these things and coming out as yourself. And when they see people like euphoric, they see trans women just like joyous and euphoric over these bodies. Women are like, how dare you like that? But I've had to be sexually oppressed and harassed for that body, and like, you just gonna like celebrate it, and I really do think, and I think guys are the same way, cis men, looking at us. I mean, I get comments all the time. Guys are like, oh, just wait until you lose that hair. Oh, just wait until testosterone does XYZ to you. Like, they're so angry that I'm like happy about my existence. And then I've started puberty later in life. Like, sorry, yes, but I had to go through the other gender for a really long time. So you know what, buddy? You want menopause? Take it. I will give it to you. But I feel like a lot of people are just looking at trans people who are joyous, and there's like an envy there of like, how dare you, come out and be this happy? How dare you be happy to be yourself? Not realizing that we also have to face a lot of adversity. Like, every day I come out, I'm facing adversity, even if I'm in a good mood.
There's a hater in the wings every day.
Yeah, every day I wake up. You know what? I cannot tell you how many times I wake up and I'm like in a great mood and I work out. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to do some cool stuff today. And I look at my phone and I look at social media and there's some like terrible comments. Yeah. And it immediately is just like, ugh. Like, this is every day. I mean, there are days when I'm like, I just can't even look at social right now. I don't think people realize that. I don't think, and they're just participating. And I saw another thing today, another post where somebody said, when you get comments like that, you have to realize that there's just a whole lot of people in the world looking for places to dump their trauma, and they found you, and you are that person they're dumping on today. And so I have to remember that, but it doesn't change the fact that it still is acting, and it's frustrating. Yeah.
I think there is there's so much fear in so many people.
Yeah, a lot.
Part of that fear is change. I mean, so like let's start with religious establishments, because that's a real safe topic. Now I've gone into that. But back in the day, the reason that churches had rules was because you wanted to keep people coming, because coming means tithing, and tithing means
Yep.
the church stays and doesn't go away,
Yes.
because money makes the world go round, even if you're a church. You
Yep.
need to keep people coming. So you
Especially
tell them, don't believe in reincarnation, don't like crystals, don't be gay, don't
Yeah.
believe in witchcraft, because you're scared if they start thinking for themselves, they'll drift away from the establishment. But we're talking like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We should be much more evolved than that now, number
Well,
one.
and look at the Enlightenment period in the 1700s. People
Right.
were thinking for themselves, and the church,
Yes, terrifying.
they were like, "Oh my gosh, what do you mean people are thinking? For
Right.
What do you mean people are not believing in the Bible anymore?" And it was such an uproar during that.
Yes. And I think that that ideology has been ingrained in us.
Yeah.
Because I think we pick up societal memory. It's like the way, how does your cat know to use the cat box when it's never seen a cat box before?
Always like that.
It's ingrained, right? Cats now
Yes.
understand on an integral level what that is. Human beings have carried that ancestral trauma from generation to generation, that you don't think outside the box or bad things will happen to you. So people have a horrible fear of really investigating who they are. And because of that, they're extremely resentful of anybody who's trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
So whenever you're a free spirit and you take a turn and you make an announcement that you've discovered something about yourself, everybody starts freaking out, because people are basically very myopic. And well, if you've made that change, now do I need to look at myself and figure out who I am? And I don't have to take that journey. So now I'm mad at you because you did. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah, and that was to my point that I said earlier. That's exactly what it is people will see, because they see change, which oftentimes comes with like this discovery, this joy. That's like, oh my gosh, a layer peeled off and I get to be myself. But I will specifically say that privileged groups of people, especially white people, I think they have the hardest time, because when they start seeing quote unquote other groups coming out, and other groups getting these benefits, and society becoming accepting of so much diversity, these people are terrified, not only that they have to change, but that society is going to change and make them the other. That's a huge thing.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Gender wars, people are like, I'm cis. You're like, I'm not cis. I'm just a woman. You're trans. And it's like, okay, no, but you're other, because you don't want to be other. In reality, we're just two different things.
Right. Well, and it's even in the queer community, right? The first two letters that I don't have to list because everybody knows what they are. But if you fall into those letters, I may be talking to you. Those first two letters in the long list of what's now, like, thanks to the Gen Y kids, it's like 6,000 letters. Are so fearful that the rest of the alphabet is going to drag them down to the depths of hell, and into a life of a pariah, because people will then associate them with all these different things. Man, you got to stop being so encased in fear, because you're never going to be spiritually free until you make a firm relationship with yourself, with your core. And and that means realizing who you are and how you want to live your life, and whatever that life is.
Yeah. And I would beg to say that, I can't say this is true, but this is my personal opinion, is I feel that people who are envious of others are not themselves. So they actually, it's like they don't understand the freedom, because when you feel the freedom to be yourself, when you do the exploration and that deep spirituality to heal yourself and become your authentic self, there is an empathy you have to have for yourself. There is a self-love and an empathy, and therefore you are more likely to have it for other people. And I think that these people are just hanging on so tight to like, well, I don't want to do that exploration. Society is doing the change for them. So for example, the L's and the G's, it's like, oh, well, a lot of movements happen to give these people rights, so they actually didn't have to do the self-work. So they get to come out and they get to have these rights. It's like women right now. Women got to that was not that way back in the day, but thanks to a lot of movements, women have the right to vote now. Women have the right to wear pants and do whatever they want, basically. So they're more likely to not have to do the work. It's like, oh, I just get to walk out of my house and be free. I don't really have to be like free to myself, you know? So
Yeah.
I think these groups of people, again, it really comes with like social privilege. It's like, well, society already accepts you for the most part. Therefore, you don't have to do the work. And then those of us
Right.
that society doesn't accept, we're out there like, well, no, we actually do have to do the work, because even just coming out is so traumatic that you have to go down that path.
Right.
Oh, that coming
Right.
out as a trans person is like an automatic dark night of the soul. Like you
Well,
can't.
and I think we saw that. I think I saw the
Yeah,
tail end of it being a young adult in the 80s, in the late 80s. I think that
yeah,
probably queer folks in the 60s and 70s saw it more. That
yes,
when it was such a not a cool thing to be queer,
absolutely,
all queer people hung together no matter what they were.
yes,
But then when it started to become accepted, certain letters became more accepted. Then it was like, oh, I'm not hanging out with these people because they're the weird ones, but I'm here. And
yeah.
that's how it is, right? And
Well, look at the
that's how
but yeah, look,
marginalized people have tried to suck up to the majority, because everyone's so desperate to be accepted, when the truth is, if we all just band together, there would be no majority. Because if women and differently abled people and people of different ethnicities and religions and sexual preferences and genders all got together, the patriarchy would be squashed like a bug.
I
But
mean,
we're so busy trying to fit in. And it's so funny. My mom used to always say that 50 was like 30 plus not giving a shit. And I kind of feel that now. I'm like, I
yeah,
just don't care anymore. I
yeah,
don't care what people think. I don't care what people think of me. I don't care if they think I'm the right kind of woman, the right kind of queer person, the right kind of psychic, the right kind of talk host. I just don't care. I'm just going to
yeah.
be me. And but the sad thing is, Kaedyn, and I don't know if you've encountered this or not, is it's not just the haters on social media. Sometimes it's people in your own life
Oh, have I? Wow. I
that,
mean,
you
that's
know what I mean? The disapproving little
yeah.
face of, well, you'd better, or um
Oh, yes. Every layer I've shed coming to myself is
yes.
another group of people that go bye-bye, and I would say, when I came out, I mean, I've practiced magic forever. When I came out and really started talking about it publicly, I had a lot of people like, like there's so much stigma. But I would say that coming out as transgender was the biggest aha moment, because there were people who I thought were freedom fighters. I thought they were all about justice. They were people fighting for queer people, and then but you were trans, that was not acceptable. And so I lost a lot of friends when I came out, and it was really sad and really depressing. I hear this so much from a lot of trans people. They're going through the struggle. It's like, my family doesn't understand, my friends dropped me. It really is it's just it's so damaging, but at the
Do you
same.
think it's because you transitioned from female to male? And maybe it's a Los Angeles thing, but I feel like I can't turn a corner without running into a trans female witch. I mean, there, you
Yeah.
know what I
No,
mean?
it really depends. I do
It's
think,
like sometimes I think we fold
yeah.
certain communities fold the trans females in,
Well,
but the
absolutely.
trans males, there's this antagonistic, oh, well, now you're just a man.
Yeah, aside from TERFs, of course, and aside from these conservatives, in my experience, I'm not trans woman, so I can't say this is what it is, but just from what I'm observing, that trans women are, it's like women are more inclined to be friends with gay men. They're more inclined to be friends with trans women. They're more inclined to be friends with queer people. But then when you are a trans guy and you go the other way around, like, men are just like, yeah, no, you don't belong here. But then women are also like, oh yeah, but you're not one of us anymore.
Yeah,
So
it's a
there's
shame.
sisterhood that happens, and I
Yeah.
do think trans women are often accepted into those sisterhoods, but there's no brotherhood for us. There's none of that. Men are just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No. Especially, and they're the same way cis men that don't gender conform, same exact way, that there's just so much masculine hype around being a man that, it's anything that differs from that. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Is I think that you definitely lose a lot of sisterhood. This is a big conversation I have with so many trans guys. You just,
Yeah.
you're just not, you don't belong anymore. And you know what makes me realize too is like a lot of women I think really hate men. There's a lot of misandry in this world that really gets uncovered.
Oh,
So much, so much.
there's and there's so much and so much misogyny. I mean, there's so much of both. And
both.
sometimes internalized. There's so much internalized misogyny.
Yes. Even from women are like,
but yeah, that's the internalized part. Yeah, we hate ourselves, right? And there's so much internalized homophobia where so many like queer people hate queer people.
Yeah.
This is why we need to, Kaedyn, I talk about all the time with my clients and when I teach, we need to do the spiritual work to find ourselves, to stop worrying so much about what's in everybody else's backyard, and start getting our own home in order first.
Yeah.
Because why are we looking for reasons not to like other people when there's so many big issues like darkness and people going over to the negativity and narcissism? There's so many reasons not to like people. Why are we picking on good people who are walking a light path and deciding we don't like them just because they belong to this community or that community? And what does it even matter? And this is the thing I don't get about gender. And this is just me. And maybe as an intersex person, I don't really get gender. And maybe that's how it's always going to be. But maybe you get gender a little bit more than me. But first of all, two things. One, the male and the female body, I mean, so similar. There's just like a tiny little bit of difference. Secondly, as I said earlier, all of us have the divine feminine. All of us have the divine masculine. Even on a physiological level, we all have masculine traits and we all have feminine traits. It's just where in the spectrum you fall and how you want to identify with that.
Yeah.
And the third thing is, if you're not actually in an intimate relationship with somebody, and as a bisexual person, I don't care, male, female, non-binary, you were dating and you want to transition, great. You want to transition back, fine. Like I'm all good. But unless you're somebody's primary partner, what in the world does it matter to you how somebody identifies at a gender level, on a sexuality level? What in the world does it matter to you?
And also, why are people obsessed with their genitals?
I know.
Like, it's
people
like
are so obsessed with their genitals.
Person, unless I'm creating a video about my genitals, which I don't do, why are we having a conversation about it? Why am I commenting? Well, let's see what's in your pants. Like, that's disgusting.
When I tell people that I'm intersex, the first question everybody always asks me is, do you also have a penis? I mean, fascinated. And I always laugh and say, I don't, but I'd probably get more dates if I did. Because I think people are secretly fascinated with the idea that somebody has both.
There's a fetish.
Like I'm some kind of funky seahorse.
Yes.
Everybody should go date a seahorse if that's what fascinates them. Find a nice plant to mate with.
Yeah.
But everybody immediately goes to, do you have a penis?
Want to know
it's
your
so fascinating to me.
Like we need to know your genitals, Sheena. It's like,
yeah, what's happening?
Who are you, and why is that your business? And would you ever ask anybody else that? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but that's what we think. I think it's just what we think about everything.
Yeah,
we're just fascinated, right? It's like we're all arrested at 9, and we just want everyone to pull out their wiener. And I think that's we need to evolve past this idea that gender is everything, because it just doesn't matter. I mean, look at our animal companions. They don't give a crap what gender we are. They don't care.
Oh, different. And it really, this just comes down to, I say everything in the world comes down to classism and misogyny. Even racism, I would classify under classism. It's like the superiority, right? How can one group be more powerful than the other? And we've really, so we've really hit this. Gender is such a huge part of that. When we're talking about wage gaps, we're talking about poverty, that classism comes into play. These people want to remain in power. You were just saying a minute ago, like, this is why people tell us to act a certain way and that we have to go out and find work and we have to do this, because it's like there are people in power that want to keep that power. So they make all these rules for everybody else. and they say, okay, you have to be this, you have to be this. And like, okay, but men, like, we're going to be above everybody else, and women have to be submissive and down. And these, conservatives thinking, but it all comes down to that. I think a lot of transphobia comes down to misogyny. And
Yes.
so, that's why gender is so important to people, because it separates people so that certain people can have power. And really, at the end of the day, this was a very male dominated society. And that's what they decided. They were like, we're the ones in power. So gender means everything to them,
Right.
and now we also have countries who are concerned about birth rates, because like China, for example, and the United States is as well. People are concerned because if less people are having babies, then that's less people that are going to participate in the capitalist system. Like, I think now, is it China or Japan? I might be wrong on this, but it's one of the two, who are like offering thousands of dollars to families to have kids because they stopped having kids and the economy
Oh,
is dying.
oh,
And
it's probably China, because I know China for many, many years you could only have one.
yeah, so the economy is tanking now. And I think
Mhm.
that, conservatives are very open about this in America. Like, if you are not having children, our economy is going to tank. There's one less people. That's why they're so pro, like, let's get as many bodies out there, because they know that the more people that are out there, the more workers there are, the more people there are spending money. And that's just how our system works.
Right.
And so I feel like, when you're looking at gender, they're looking at like heterosexuality, like, oh, well, if it's not just this way, and like this goes here and the baby comes, and that, then everything
Yeah.
else is ruining the world. And I really think,
Exactly. Yes.
sometimes there's this, we think like, oh, it's religion. It's like, actually, it's a lot of times it's capitalism. There's all these
Yeah.
different factors to why people are pushing these certain laws and certain rules. They don't want men to be off becoming women, as they say it, because it's like, oh, but there goes the male population, that we lose power over that. We start allowing men to be feminine, men lose power. We start allowing trans men to exist and taking testosterone and not becoming fertile and having babies, we lose the women. So that I feel like this is their
Right.
way of thinking.
Right. But again, it's a thinking that's 2,000 years old.
2000, yes.
From a time where we had to keep populations alive.
Yeah.
It's like Leviticus. Everybody always, now I've brought Leviticus up, Katie.
Yeah.
Everybody always wants to talk about Leviticus, but
Even in
in a
of
lot of ways, Leviticus is an Old Testament handbook for how the Jewish population should not disappear. Because at the time, there were so many struggles that faced Jewish people: starvation, enslavement, that, you have to be healthy enough to be able to have a baby.
Yeah.
So it was trying to get people, don't eat the pork because it'll kill you. Don't do this. And one of that is, don't lie down with men. No, of course, lie down with women, and please have more Jewish people because we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But that was when a society, a group, a gender of people, a nationality of people, was trying to stay alive.
Yes.
We don't have that problem anymore. There's no human beings are going to become extinct anytime soon. We're all still going to be here. So we don't need to constantly be doing things to preserve the species anymore, because honestly, there's too many of us here.
Billions, like, we just don't even have enough resources for all the people.
No, there's no. If people want to stop having kids, so that we can, as Charles Dickens said in A Christmas Carol, decrease the surplus population, maybe, not such a bad idea. But we're still stuck in that old patterning of panic that if we don't continue to have kids, we're going to become
extinct. That, and I feel, and this is what I've heard from a lot of people, is like, they had kids because they thought that's what they had to do. They have kids when they're younger, they get pressured into having the family.
Yeah.
I mean, their family, so many people are still pressured. I mean, that is still such a big thing.
It is a huge thing.
Having kids, whether you're heterosexual or not, that people are being pressured into having that family environment. And I hear from people later in life that get divorces, and they break up, and they say, well, I just thought that this is what I had to do because I was told that was the route, and I was told that too. Thank God I didn't listen.
Yes.
I was told that route, and I almost caved a few times. Every time my body was like, baby, I was like, I'm going to get another cat.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I have. I got my clock is ticking on how many more cats can I have?
Yeah.
That's my biological clock. How many cats are out there that I can have before I die?
Exactly.
But there's a tremendous pressure, I think, and especially in this country, there is a tremendous pressure for people to get married and have children. And
yes,
you are
yes.
definitely treated as a less than if you are not married and you don't have
attempt.
children. And it used to be that the queers were where you could be safe from that. But now I think the queers have overcompensated and even become worse. Now, if you're dating somebody for 2 months and you're not getting married, somebody's pressuring you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I remember, I never got married. That's a long story. I was engaged, but I remember thinking, well, if I don't get married, like we could be together, that's great. But if we don't get married, I never have to be pressured into having a kid because that comes first. This was my mindset was, well, if I never do the married thing, I won't have to listen because I never wanted to have birth babies. And I just really remember thinking that. If I just don't do this thing, then no one's going to bug me about the other thing. But I mean, the marriage conversation came up constantly.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People get angry at you if you say you don't want to get married. They don't understand.
Oh, I've seen dating sites where people will put on there, I'm in this for marriage, and if you're not, don't even bother. And it's like, whoa, okay, like what does that mean? What does that piece of paper?
I love
love
love, and I like the idea. Like I'm an Aries. If I could have met my person at 16 and partnered with them, I would have stayed with them the rest of my life if it would have been right. I don't need variety. I don't need adventure. I could eat the same club sandwich every day and be fine. But I don't want to be married. And I don't think that my love should be defined by a license.
Yeah.
And
as my friend called a business contract, which it
right.
is.
I don't think that's a thing. And I don't think you should have to have a license to have a dog or a cat. It's like, but that's your family. Why do you have to have a license to have family? I don't understand that.
And people will fight you on that. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being married. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. It's great if it's what you want.
Say you don't know how to commit unless you want paperwork. And it's like, yes, but like maybe that's just not something you want. I mean, I've never really wanted that. And long story short, I had an ex where for 10 years, we both agreed that we didn't want to have kids and get married. And then after 10 years, he got pressured and finally asked, and that went down the tubes. But it's like, what about this pact we made that we weren't going to do it? And then suddenly that was why we ended up breaking up. He then suddenly wanted this nuclear family because he got pressured. He was getting older and he got pressured into it. Maybe he wanted it or not, but he definitely got the pressure from everyone else. And we were the odd ones. We were so strange for not wanting that. And I was like, but why? So yeah, there's so much.
We're just, when it all comes down to, we're not letting people be who they are.
Yeah.
And that's hard because people are never going to get better unless they start to figure out who they really are.
Yes.
And we're not going to evolve as a species the way we should unless people start to figure out who they really are.
And I think if we're talking about romantic relationships, so many people put so much pressure on finding another person to complete them. Yes. Like, want to do the work. So it's like, but if I find somebody to love me, I don't really have to do that work myself. But they don't realize that going into that relationship, they're bringing all of that garbage of like, you didn't do the work. So like, this is showing up every single day.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm like, I got to ask people, like, have you done therapy? What's your relationship with your childhood trauma? Like, you got to have this conversation these days.
Exactly. Yes.
People, and it's like, I like you, but this ain't going to work because there's so much struggle you haven't dealt with. Doesn't mean people aren't lovable, but to be in a partnership, you can love somebody, but to be in a partnership and have that constantly be thrown at you is really exhausting. And I've been there and it's frustrating.
Yeah. I agree. I think if, it's kind of like if I'm supposed to do a show and I realize I don't have a voice, as much as it pains me, I postpone the show. Mm-hmm. I think if you're not capable of being in a relationship, because you're just too messed up, don't get in a relationship. Don't put somebody else through that.
And it doesn't even, we don't even have to phrase it as messed up. It's like, if you are
I said messed up. It was me. I did it.
If you are not, because I mean, I've been through this. If you are not capable of being in a relationship, if you want that relationship just so you don't have to do the work, you're looking for someone to save you, to rescue you, don't be in that relationship. That person is not your savior. And I see this all the time. Again, that doesn't mean you're not, you are lovable. Everyone's lovable, but that other person is never going to be able to fill that void. And I see this so much with people as they're just searching and looking. It's like, but if you took the time, like if all of us spent our 20s doing the work to figure out who we are, because our brains don't really fully develop until we're over 25. And my friend told me, like, if you're neurodivergent, it's not till you're 35. So our brains are fully not even developed yet, our frontal lobe cortex. And so if you spend that time really figuring out who you are, then you have so much life ahead of you to find that person and to find that perfect job. But so many people struggle because they don't do that work in advance.
Right. And if you're with somebody who expects you to be perfect, then you're with the wrong person. But just be honest. Just tell somebody up front, look, here's my stuff.
Yeah.
Let somebody decide whether or not your stuff and their stuff, when everybody's crazy, it's just if you're crazy matches somebody else's crazy. It's I love that expression. Let's just let people know this is a thing. Don't act like nothing is wrong with you at all and put on your party face. And then 6 weeks in, oh, here's all my problems. Yeah. And don't put all your problems on somebody else. Don't make all your problems somebody else.
I'm honest with everyone. I'm honest. I mean, I like to think I'm honest on social media because I'm like, look, I'm putting myself out there. I'm gonna let everyone know what's going on and how I feel, because I want you to know when you meet me, this is what you're gonna get. You're not gonna get somebody that doesn't have these deep, intense conversations. And sometimes I would meet people, and it's like they think I'm intense. I'm like, but you saw my stuff. Like that's why we're chatting. Is you saw me open up and be vulnerable. You don't think I'm gonna be that way in a relationship, even a friendship. People are like, oh, well, you seem cool, but also like, I don't want to be that intimate. And intimate doesn't mean romantic or sexual. It could just be intimate. It could be getting to know the other person. And so often people are I get that a lot, like, you're very intense. Like, well, I don't let things go. I also like to work through things. So if something comes up, I'm really shocked how often I'm like, okay, well, let's sit down, we need to work through this. And people are like, oh no, we'll just forget it. And it's like, oh no, this is going to come up again. And then it comes up again and again and again.
Yes.
But we were like, we could have just sat down and worked through this, but.
Right. You just could have been honest with me about what your stuff is, but we're all trying so hard to pretend we don't have any stuff.
Yeah. We all have stuff. I mean, my gosh, every one of us, even if we have the perfect childhood and great parents.
What does that even mean? The perfect childhood?
I don't know. Who are these people? But even if you had woke parents, whatever we want to say, we have systemic issues up there. So it's like, we're all gonna have stuff. We were born perfect, and we come here as human beings with these parents we made soul contracts with that are gonna F you up. These friends over here are gonna mess with you. That partner. I mean, we created this experience to be a little bit tumultuous so we can learn and grow. So nobody is ever going to not have stuff.
Yes, it's true. Just try to work on your stuff. Try to become a better person so you can be better for everybody else. I mean, we're not in this journey alone, right? There's a lot of us here on this rock all doing our thing at the same time.
Yeah.
The more internal strength and peace we each can achieve for ourselves. I always say at the end of every show, always work to raise not only your vibration, but the vibration of those around you, so you can in turn help to raise the entire vibration of the everything. All of us matter, and it's like your car, right? Your car has thousands of parts in it. If every part isn't functioning, the overall car doesn't function as well. So be a part that functions.
Part doesn't function. Car, even if one big part, the car's not going to run. That battery.
Exactly. Learn to be the part of the machine that works.
Yeah.
And then hope everybody else does the same work, and then we can all live so harmoniously together, right? And work with each other and not against each other. I think that's so important.
It's just so important to have acceptance of, I think the biggest thing is that people are, instead of finding their self-power, they're trying to find power over others. So, we just talked a moment ago about, say, women and trans people. And it's like, okay, women, we know that you're struggling for power because, you're part of this misogynistic patriarchy, but like taking it away from somebody else, JK Rowling, I'm talking to you, taking it away from somebody else is not going to give you that power. It's not going to give you that superiority at all. That's false power. And I think if we had more acceptance and we had more humility, that we are all just humans doing our thing and no one's really more important than anybody else. I don't care if you're Taylor Swift, you're not more important than anybody else. You just happen to be popular and known by many for reasons. We would just have more harmony.
Yeah. I agree. Boy, you're a blast to have on. We need to do this again soon, my friend. I would love that. Tell us all about your new show and where people can find you online.
Absolutely. So everybody can find me at Trans Fairy Prince. That's TransFaerie Prince. And my new show is called The Reassignment. It is going to be a transgender talk show. I'm going to be interviewing people and hearing stories of joy and transition. And all my guests are going to be trans, and intersex people are welcome. So you're going to be on it. Yeah. And I just want to say, if you're BIPOC, intersex, non-binary, you're included. So I'm excited that it's not out yet, but it's something that I'm working on right now. So it's going to be out soon.
It's like the land of misfit gender toys.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's going to be. And I'm going to be the captain. Thank you.
I love that. That's fantastic.
My favorite salutation.
Please go and follow my wonderful friend. And thank you for being here. I appreciate it, sweetheart. You're the best. The wonderful Kaedyn Nedopak. Such a joy always to have him here with me, talking about important things and spirituality and sociology and culture and all the things that matter, man. If you missed those links, I'm at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. That's SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. And you can also find me on all social media at Sheena Metal. My website I gave you. And if you want to send me a text message, you're welcome to. Let's get to know each other better. 818-437-0886. Until I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise not only your vibration, but the vibration of those around you, so you can in turn work to raise the vibration of the everything. And most importantly, remember that you are love and you are loved. Thanks to Parapod TV for having us. Thanks to the wonderful Tony Sweet, Parapod's owner and operator, for making us part of your wonderful television family. Thank you to my engineer and producer, Emery, who is the wind beneath my wings, and my brilliant guest, Kaedyn Nedopak. I'll see you next Wednesday at 3:00 Pacific time. I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you next time.